the intro. I wanted to start by how what I'm doing is different. So I'm based in Silicon Valley in San Francisco, and this is the first time I've been on stage in a suit in the last 2.5 years since I started the company. The day before I started OLSET, I actually went and bought 5 pairs of jeans and 20 black t-shirts, and that's what I've worn for the last 2.5 years. So very different for me to be on stage in a suit. I was used to this in the past. Now, why am I actually here on stage talking to all of you experts in the travel space? Well, first of all, because Petra invited me, so thank you very much for inviting me and having me here. But also, even though I just joined the travel industry about 2.5 years ago, I had attained what is considered pilot status on most airlines and participating in most hotel chains. I had the joy of traveling about 2.1 million miles in a period of less than 10 years and staying in hotels around 1,500 nights during that same time period. So I really, really know the joy of the frequent traveler and the joy of people who travel a lot and the experiences that they have. And what I wanted to discuss today is actually start with a case study of what's going on in the travel industry and why I was so concerned about it after my last company was acquired. And I said, I think we can really jump into this industry and help people do a much better job on conversion and on the experience. Now, it's a really tough act to follow after the last presentation, but I guess in order to set it up correctly, imagine that you could all be able to do exactly what they were able to do on personalization and improve conversions on hotels in the exact same way. These are the tools that we are here to provide you, and we're already providing to some significant players in the travel industry. So stay tuned, let's start with an example and then talk a bit more about how we're able to provide you with these solutions. Let's look at the numbers, right? These are formal numbers by Expedia and Orbitz, or Expedia and Expedia as they're known now, from Q4 last year. Right? And what we can see, and these are from their annual reports, Dara talked about the 51% of travelers who book select one of the first 5 hotels. Barney talked about the 47% of people who book the first hotel that's shown to them. We're going back to the presentation from Professor Savitz yesterday. We don't want to look, we don't want choice, right? We look at the first 5 hotels that are presented to us, and 50% of us will book one of those hotels. By the way, almost 100% of us will book hotels on the first page of the display that is shown to us. Right? That is a very, very significant thing in the industry. They're very proud of these numbers. There's only one big fallacy in these numbers, and that is 97% of the people that come to these sites, they have about 3 to 3.3% conversion rates, don't actually book. Right? So 50% book what they're shown, but that's just the people who book. What about all these people that don't book? Let's even assume that 70% of the people are just browsing. Okay? The actual number is around 37%, but let's assume that 70% of the people were just looking and were not ready to book. That still means that only 1 out of 10, 3 out of the 30% that were there to book actually converted. Right? That is a ridiculously small number. Right? There's a big problem here. Why can't we get to 5, 6, 10, 15% conversion rates? 15 might be optimistic, but why can't we double the conversion rates or triple the conversion rates that we had? Right? That's the question that we asked, and that's the question that I, as a very frequent traveler, looked at the industry and said, why am I spending so much time doing this work? Why can't you take all of these big data technologies that Jane from Yandex talked about yesterday and use that power to make my experience better? Why don't we look at who is the traveler? We're constantly looking at margins on hotels. We're constantly looking at what I can get, but we forget that the traveler's out there. And if you were just able to give them the right offer, they would more likely convert. Right? Let's look at the example in more detail. So to prepare this, I actually went on Expedia. The reason I use Expedia for most of my examples is, personally, I had 151 bookings on Expedia in the past, And yet, every time that I showed up on the Expedia site, they were shocked to see me. They didn't know anything about me, right? The fact that out of those 151, more than 120 were booked on Marriott or Hilton. They should know that I'm probably a loyal member of those chains. Over 120 of those bookings were in a 4-star hotel. Over 120 of them were in the downtown area, etc., etc., etc. They should know that. Right? The summary from Dr. Savet's presentation yesterday was, use your data. Why aren't you using your data? It's there. Right? We are here to enable you to use that data and improve conversion. So let's look at the example. I need to go to Chicago in a couple of weeks. I search for a hotel in the Loop in Chicago. They don't know who I am, right? They're not trying to look at my past behavior, even though I'm a registered user, right? I have 151 past bookings. But even if I'm not a registered user, they can look at the flight that I booked and the flight class. They can look at how many travelers. They can look at the dates that I'm looking for. They can know a lot of information about me. Okay? But if I am, assuming I'm a luxury traveler, and this is a very, very simplified example, our algorithms are slightly more sophisticated than this, okay? But these are the hotels that are presented to me. Because again, they don't want to know, or they don't know who I am, right? As a luxury traveler, I look at the top 5 hotels. Remember, I'm very likely to convert if one of the top 5 is the right hotel for me. There is no luxury hotel in here. They just lost me as a customer. Okay? Let's assume I'm a practical business traveler. Right? As a practical business traveler, I look at the results here, and we can see the Club Quarters and the Wyndham. Those are likely to be the right hotels for me. I might actually convert on these. They got me as a traveler here to engage with the site. Now I'm a budget traveler. They show me the exact same results. Notice nothing changes because they're not changing the results based on the traveler. And again, they lost me. There's no way I'll book one of these hotels as a budget traveler. So even with the most simple example of just 3 levels considering only one factor, they lost 2 out of 3 of the users. Let's look at how this experience could be different if they were using our APIs. Okay? Now, as a luxury traveler, we know that this person is a luxury traveler, and immediately the results that are shown are for luxury hotels, right? The top 5 hotels are immediately relevant for this individual. Not only that, but very importantly, you heard from Jane yesterday that big data can give you the information on what you should do, but not why. I'd like to tell you that we can absolutely tell you why. Right? If you focus it on one industry, and if you analyze that one industry, which in this case is travel, that's all that we do, you can tell people exactly why. So take a look at this recommendation. The first hotel that came up is a 99% match for this individual traveler based on their preferences, and we tell them exactly why it's a good hotel for them. No need to look anywhere else, right? You will find all the details here. It's the best fit hotel. We're also looking at the star rating, the hotel chain, the user review rating, the price, the distance from the location that you wanted, and also some very personalized information around you wanted a comfortable bed, you wanted a fitness center, a bar, and aspects like that that are all getting positive reviews from many other travelers. And we'll talk about the review aspect in a second. We've created a completely unique data set that enables us to not only understand the travelers, but also understand the hotel inventory in a much better way. Okay? Let's look at a business traveler, completely different results, right? Much more targeted towards their ability to pay, their loyalty schemes, and the features that they're actually interested in. And the budget traveler, yet again, different results that match their preferences and their criteria. So I wanted to start with this simple example that really shows you a big fallacy that exists in the travel industry, and a very simple way that we're able to attack that issue and make changes. Now, we didn't come up with this concept of personalization, right? Personalization is everywhere today. If you're using Netflix, if you're using Amazon, if you're using Google, everything is personalized for you. They look at your past behavior, they look at their inventory, and they try to do the matching between the two. And the numbers are actually staggering. These are numbers from Q3 last year. One of the advantages of being in Silicon Valley is that we get exposed to a lot of these people like Netflix, and I got to present with Javier at a conference. We were both in t-shirts and jeans. I think he was actually wearing shorts, and he was presenting on stage to 3,000 people. But the numbers actually in Q1 this year are even more staggering. Netflix today, more than 70% of the movies watched are based on a personalized recommendation, because they realize that they have many millions of movies, they have many millions of users, and if they just let people sit there and search, people will be very dissatisfied with the experience. So why not look at what you did in the past, look at our inventory and understand our inventory better, and give you intelligent recommendations. Amazon, the great Amazon, Q1 this year, 40% of their sales, okay, were based on personalized recommendation. Okay, 40% of Amazon sales. Now, this is not a surprise, right? If you look at the numbers that they actually released, people are 900% more likely to convert on a personalized recommendation than they are on a regular search. Right? These are actual, factual numbers that Amazon has released. They're public. So why are we not doing this in travel? We see some players that are starting to do it. We saw that Amadeus is starting to provide these capabilities in the air section. We saw just now that C-Trip is actually doing that on their mobile app, learning. But how can we enable all of you to do the exact same thing? That's exactly what OLSET is here to do. And we've created a simple set of tools that enables you through our APIs not to change your inventory, not to change the user interface, still have people check out on your environment. So use all the tools that you have today, but make them smarter, make them much more powerful, and make them personalized. And it starts, as I said, with the traveler. And when we look at the travelers, we can look at 3 different types of travelers, in order to create their profiles and have more knowledge about them. One are known travelers, people who have a past history. On average, we've seen that most OTAs that have a loyal following, that will be around 9% of the people that you have. And these people can actually be categorized as an individual. We don't need to use a cluster. We know exactly who Bob is. And we can give them intelligent recommendation, whether one or multiple profiles. The second level are people who are cookied. We don't know exactly who they are, but we know some of their search capabilities, some of the filters that they've used, and things like that. We can already give them much more intelligent recommendations based on that. And the third level is the anonymous user, people that we don't know anything about. But is that really true? Do we really not know anything about them? Or do we know that it's actually one traveler, or 2 travelers, or a family of 4? We know what destination they're going to. We know if they're going on a Tuesday to Thursday, and they're going to Berlin, or are they going as a family Thursday to Monday, and they're going to some vacation resort, right? Those are all things that we can use in order to give them intelligent recommendations. This is where we fall back to the clustering that Jane from Yandex talked about. And typically the way we work is we take past data, because that changes for every site and for every country. We use that past data to create these clusters using big data. I don't like that term anymore because it's so overused, but I've been playing in that big data market since 2001. So that's what we do in order to understand the travelers, and we provide you these capabilities as an API that you can use. What we learned very quickly is that even if we know who the travelers are, that is not enough, because we don't really understand the hotel inventory well enough. Right? Anybody who came to this hotel knew that there was a swimming pool here, knew that there was a gym, knew that there was Wi-Fi, knew that there was a bar, but did you know if any of those were good? You didn't have that information, because all we're relying on today is quantitative information and not qualitative information. So we went out and created a complete data set of unique information based on 40 million traveler reviews that we collected across 400,000 hotels. We know exactly what's good and what's bad about each and every one of these hotels, and we can use that information in order to run our matching and recommendation algorithms. So when we do show a recommendation to a traveler, either it's part of a dynamic package or somebody who's just buying a hotel, we can make sure that that recommendation is much, much smarter. okay? So the one thing I would ask you, okay, is don't be too busy to improve. This is a change in the way that we make recommendations for hotel buying. Okay? It's no longer just making the button of purchase bigger. It's no longer just relying on the meta to bring you the traffic. Right? We're looking at a fundamental change which first and foremost puts the traveler in front. And please come talk to me. I'll be in the display next. I'm actually here until 8 p.m. I have a late flight, so I'm happy to speak with anybody. We'd love to pilot with you and spend 4 to 6 weeks to prove that this can work within your environment. Thank you very much. I think we're starting a panel, but if anybody has questions while the people are coming up,